Hi everyone, you are listening to She Leads with Carly. Our guest today is Leslie Blodgett. As a former CEO and creator of bareMinerals, Leslie is often regarded as the most influential singular woman to impact the beauty industry. She reinvented how beauty was sold by fostering the power of community, and she took bareMinerals public in one of the largest cosmetic IPOs when it was acquired for $1.8 billion. Now, Leslie is the author of Pretty Good Advice, an incredible, genuine, and just such a fun book where Leslie gives 97 pieces of advice around business, life, beauty, and more. We chat about her early career where she was flipping burgers at McDonald's, to getting her first job at Bloomingdale's, which, as I might add, it's quite a funny story, to her experience on QVC, which ended up being the difference maker to bareMinerals' success. So many pieces of advice from Leslie. I absolutely love our chat and I love Leslie even more, so please take a listen and enjoy. Leslie Blodgett, I am so excited to have you on She Leads today. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me. We met in class, didn't we?
I know, we met. It was about a year ago when you were a DCI fellow at Stanford in a storytelling class. I love that class, but anyway, we'll get into that. But first, Leslie, you are the founder and creator and former CEO of bareMinerals, a cosmetics makeup company where you honestly just trailblazed and were the beauty industry pioneer, as I've read many places online, because you really focused on this natural mineral makeup. And from my understanding at the time, it was a lot of chemicals and everything. But with that, you were the driver in one of the largest IPOs in the cosmetics industry, selling to Shiseido, one of the Japanese giants in cosmetics, for $1.8 billion, which is crazy. And right now you are also served on the board of directors for many female-run companies like Stella & Dot, which Jessica Herron, I've listened to a lot of her self-made podcasts and I love. Spanx, another Sarah Blakely, incredible story, and Maternal Health Organization, and Every Mother Counts. And probably most exciting, which is hard to believe, but you recently are the author of the best-selling book called Pretty Good Advice, which you see in the background of yours, and I have my own copy right here. In this book, you really just give 97 pieces of advice where using your stories and whether it's relationships, personal relationships with your mom, your husband, or professional with customers and everything. So I would highly, highly recommend to everyone to get this book because it's really, I told you, it's so honest and it's as if you're really talking to you and having conversation, which I absolutely love. So we're going to talk more about this book and just kind of go through your story. So thank you so much for coming, as I said. Okay, so I like to really start off with talking about, kind of take me back to when you were 22 years old, but I also want to hear for you, take me back to your childhood and what aspects of your childhood do you really see formed who you are today?
Yeah, I grew up on Long Island and middle-class family. Both my parents were high school teachers.
Yeah.
And I had a great childhood. It was the 70s. So I graduated high school in 1980. So the 70s is actually my favorite decade. The music, the fun that I had. I was into everything. Yeah. I had a paying job when I was like 10 years old doing the paper route with my brother. Sold seeds, so it was always trying to put money in the bank.
Yeah.
So we had, what do you call those? Garage sales, selling stuff to make extra money. And then my first job was working at McDonald's. And that was a huge, amazing moment for me to learn how to work with a team. And I learned how to make Big Macs, and that was just remarkable. Yeah. But as a kid, I was an athlete. I was into stuff. I read a lot. I think the defining moment, though, that I remember, my brother and I talk about this. My parents got divorced, and it was kind of an ugly divorce. So we laugh that we don't really laugh, but there was like the pre-divorce period and the post. And I think I just learned a lot about how to push through some, challenging stuff, and using humor was a great way for me to get past that.
Definitely. So walk me through now, you in college and you decide to leave college and really never go back. You didn't necessarily drop out, but you never went back. And
yeah, so you know about 22. Yeah, we haven't gotten to 22 yet.
Yeah, let's take me through that mindset. What did you want to be when you grew up? What were these like outside voices in your head kind of guiding you in your career? And yeah, what were you seeing yourself in your future?
Yeah, so I was a hardworking kid in high school, but I was also kind of under my mother's thumb a little bit. She was pretty strict, and I was always trying to please her and didn't have that much freedom. So when I went to school for the first 2 years, Oswego, upstate New York,
Yeah.
I think I enjoyed being on my own so much. And it was cold. So it was so cold that I needed to warm up by partying a little bit, maybe too much. I don't know. It didn't go as well as my mother had planned. I had a good time. So after 2 years, I left. I thought I would go back, but I didn't end up going back. I ended up moving to Florida for a little while, and I became, I don't know if you'd call it a waitress, but I worked at Ponderosa. I brought food out. They ordered it online, and then I'd bring the food out and make 50-cent tips. So that was my life for a while. And my mother was not pleased with that direction. So again, it was I actually thank her now. And you see that part in the book where she was so tough, but if she didn't like push me and like almost berate me out of that one, I don't know where I'd be. Yeah. So she is the one that found that the FIT in New York City had a cosmetic marketing program. And she said, you know what, you've always loved makeup. Would you want to look into this one? And that was a great, that was a great move for me to try and get into FIT, which I did not get in because I didn't have beauty industry experience. So while I applied, it was a great idea, but I wasn't accepted. They only accepted about 20 people a year into the program. Yes. So that was a bummer, but then I worked around it and eventually found my way.
Yeah. Yeah. There's in the book, but you get a letter from your mom basically asking like, what are your plans if FIT doesn't work out? And you ended up getting that experience. And tell me a little bit. So right now I just graduated college, entering the workforce. Like what advice can you give people who in this job space? So you mentioned like McDonald's, you learned a lot and it really built character, which is important at any time. Like in the moment, it could be very hard, but looking back, you really like learned a lot. As well as like the tip about getting desperate, where you were there in the hallway, walking by you every day, and they had to give you a job. So tell me a little bit about that and advice you have for people like me who are going into the workforce.
Yeah, and just starting out with the McDonald's thing, I never looked down on that at all. Every time I had an opportunity to do anything, I looked at it as a privilege. Like here I am. Well, this is a big organization. What can I learn here? And I just knew, first of all, I still believe that if someone lets you in the door, if someone is willing to talk to you, that's a gift right there. If people have 24 hours a day and they're choosing to actually have a conversation with you, that's big. So I didn't have a choice. I needed somebody to hire me. I needed to get beauty industry experience by working behind a cosmetic counter in New York City. I needed that in order to get into FIT. So I didn't have a choice. So the Get Desperate chapter in the book is really about, I find I'm most creative when I don't have any other alternative. Like I need this. I just make this happen. So when I applied for a job at Bloomingdale's to work behind the counter, they said, you can't work here because you don't have experience. So I'm like, well, who's going to give me experience around here? So I decided to not let that be the final answer. So I went to the Bloomingdale's buying office where I had an interview and they said no. And I just waited. There was a very small, narrow hallway with a very low ceiling. And they had to walk by me every day for a week. And it was awkward, but I smiled. I was kind of nice about it. And they, after the end of the week, they thought it was pretty funny too, I think. So they offered me my first job. And it was on the beauty floor, but I didn't get actual hourly wage. I only made commission. So it wasn't like I was like rolling in the dough, but I got on the floor and I was selling hair sticks. So I was teaching women how to roll up their hair and put sticks in. And then I just, didn't eat a lot of real food that year, but it worked. I just find when things are looking really bad, you become more creative because you don't have any other choice. You can be depressed and curl up in bed, which I've done too, but I just don't let that happen for too long a period. Then you start just really thinking it through. Yeah,
I love it. I think that's a very, very valuable tool, especially I think it's easy to get wrapped up in everything that's happening now, but it's almost like, what can I do to be proactive to when this is done, or even right now, what can I do to make some
people
growth?
like you. Yeah. So you graduated and the whole world is upside down and you're thinking, oh my gosh, there are thousands of people like me who may not know what their next move is going to be. Yeah. But I'll tell you this, a lot of people enjoy the idea of being competitive, like your sports, you like to win.
Yeah.
There are people right now that are working this out. They have their tools. They're figuring out what companies need right now, and how can they fit into that. There are people that are educating themselves on what will work within the company they want to go work for. So it's happening for people. It's just how willing are you to figure out what's best.
Definitely. Okay, so after FIT and really finding bareMinerals, I want to hear about this, and then we'll get into the story of QVC, which I think is such a important story and it's so many valuable lessons within it. But first, tell me kind of this transition to now finding bareMinerals and really taking off with it.
Yeah, well, the whole bareMinerals story really does start at QVC.
Okay, yeah.
It's the product was the first mineral makeup. Loose powder foundation. Everyone's using liquid. No one really cared about healthy back then. This is in the 90s. People were putting products on their face without even ever looking at ingredients. The long 100 ingredient list didn't bother them. So I had a product that was unique that you had to put on with a brush. I had a formula that had 5 ingredients. I was telling a healthy story. In the stores, nobody cared.
Yeah.
And it probably, if it weren't for QVC, you couldn't do it in a print ad anyway. You couldn't explain it. So lucky for me, I didn't have any money. I had no money to advertise. I didn't have investors come in. And if sometimes too much of that, again, you're not desperate enough to come up with other solutions. Yeah. So I knew it was an interesting idea, but I had nobody that wanted to try it. Okay. So it wasn't until it was really bad. We only really made money at fourth quarter because we sold gift baskets and we were selling lotions and shower gels. But I had this product, and I was up in the middle of the night, and I was watching TV for comfort because I was so stressed out. And that's when I turned on the TV. I saw a woman talking about jewelry, talking to me. She was live. She was in Pennsylvania. I'm in California. And she's talking to me like we're talking. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I was getting more relaxed. I was in the moment with her. And eventually, I bought a product off of QVC. And it came in the mail. And I thought, wow, this really is as good as you said it is. This isn't a crazy idea. Yeah. So that's when I thought, you know what? I could do this. I believe in this product. Why don't I see if I can get on? I filled out an application, mailed it in. They called me in for an interview in Pennsylvania. I bought a fake diamond ring from QVC, their Diamondique brand, so it looked like I was successful. And they decided, the buyer was having a good day, they decided to give me a shot and put me on TV. And I didn't think that part through because I'm really not a showy person. I'm an introvert. I've never been on TV before. Yeah. So I had to get myself ready for this idea of a Saturday morning, 90 million households, talking about a product that nobody really wants. And that's where it all started.
So, okay, some context behind this that you can read in the book and also just other podcasts. But what's crazy about you going on to QVC is, one, it was incredibly risky from a financial standpoint, because if they didn't sell, then you would basically have to throw away all these products. And also, from your perspective, as you said, you're an introvert. So you weren't very enthused to be public speaking in front of all these people, being on live television. And to go on top of that, you didn't tell anyone, from my understanding. Is that true?
Right.
So,
that is true.
So, walk me through that process, not telling anyone and just, really taking that risk. What advice do you have from that aspect to just, really jump into it and go full on?
Yeah, you know what? I think you will surprise yourself to find what you can do if you don't think too much about it. If you know you have to do certain things. I would never have imagined I would be doing this. But I also, once I agreed to do it, why would I tell anyone? I don't mind failing. I mean, I don't like it, but I don't want to do it in front of people. That's why the social media thing is crazy to me. People can go out. I'm not a public speaker still to this day. I do not enjoy it. So I want to see how I do. I like to start small, and then if it works, I'll blow it up. But the idea of selling makeup, foundation that you have to actually match to your skin tone, you do that in a department store before. That's how it was done. You don't do it on TV. So I also didn't ask anyone for advice because I knew they would tell me I was nuts, and I don't need anyone telling me that. I tell myself that on my own. Yeah. So I just felt it was a great idea until like the night before. I'm in the hotel room and I'm going on the next day. I couldn't sleep the whole night. I was just physically ill. Yeah. And I just stopped myself and reminded me that I believe in this. I know that this product, people will love it if they gave it a shot. And I am like a friend to them. I am an expert in what I do. Yeah. I might not look like a supermodel, which is who was selling makeup before, or celebrities. I just had to own what I was good at. And it was so great that just one of the tips in the book is practice being yourself instead of trying to be somebody else. Yeah. I have been doing that for many, many years, just like building on what I know I'm good at are the parts of me that do connect with others. Mm. And it worked that day, and I've never been media trained since, because I've learned that people like to know that this is a real person and not a polished stone.
Yeah, definitely. It's because you changed the beauty industry in the sense that, like what you said, seeing these models who have these beautiful figures and makeup and everything, and like people from a typical person sitting on their couch, they're just thinking, okay, I'm not like them. Whereas you made it this way where you established this like me and you relationship rather than a me versus you, if you will. So I think that was so incredible. But yeah. Okay, so going off of that, you write in the book about your fear of public speaking. You write, if there's one thing I'm really afraid of, and I think this fear is healthy, it's not growing. And sometimes making progress means making peace with things you cannot change. And so this whole idea of, I think one thing that is so important is always making sure you're growing. And I think I've talked to other females on this show, and the idea of like knowing when to move on is when you stop growing. So tell me a little bit more about that, and the idea of where, while public speaking has never been a favorite thing of yours and probably still isn't today, like how do you almost accept it to know it isn't?
Right. So I'm always in battle with myself. Yeah. I know people can relate to this, that there are two people living inside them. There is an extrovert in there somewhere. Yeah. Introvert is definitely the one that I live with every day. I know that I am happier when I try new things and when I push myself, even though the process is so painful. So I have created this beautiful comfort zone for myself. I just know if I stay in it too long, I get angry, and angry is and frustrated, and I get angry at other people. So I try to. I've learned that I'm anxious, and I do have anxiety, and I do have fears. Yeah. But I'm not at this point in my life. They're not going away. So I've agreed to let them be with me, and I use that as like intensity and passion to do things. So for public speaking, as an example, I do not enjoy it. I do not look forward to it. One of the reasons this book tour has been such a thrill for me is because I haven't had to leave my house. Yeah. So I had a 22 city tour planned, and I was petrified of that. Even with all this experience I have, I'm able to do it from here. But that fear, we have an agreement. We'll talk later. Let me do this right now. Yeah. So it's just not, I forgive myself for having it, but I use that energy in other ways. Yeah. So I think don't feel like you need to get rid of that fear. You use it to pump you up in the areas you need it.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's so valuable. And I think it's almost as if, I'll just real quick, but it's almost, so playing soccer, one person always told me that the nerves are good before a game. That like when you stop getting nervous, it means you stop caring in a way, which could be another, like that's kind of a similar mindset, like knowing that it's like these nerves are healthy, like I'm doing something that I'm challenged and everything. So I think that's really cool.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So, okay. So now tell me a little bit more about, so part of the book is about your relationship with your customers, which is even unparalleled, like even today in companies that you see. And it really shouldn't be, but I think what you had with your customers was way beyond what people have. And it's very special by getting on these online chats with them, talking for hours into the night, having them over to your Las Vegas hotel room, like so many things. One lesson I think that's really important that I want you to touch on is you talk about, one tip is called never get jaded. And you're right, because if you think you're too big to remember who you serve, you're going to get small fast. So talk to me about that and about really serving the customer.
Oh, so that's the whole story. Yeah. That's the whole story of bareMinerals. From the moment I got off QVC that day, when I got back to the office, I got a phone call from a woman from Georgia who didn't have a lot of stores around her. So she shopped on QVC. She called to ask me what nail polish I was wearing. And I was very intrigued. I didn't, to actually talk to someone who saw me. She told me that there were these online threads and chat rooms. She said, you should come on there. A lot of them are talking about you and your company and the product you're selling. Yeah. And I went on there. And this was like in the 90s. This was before Facebook and all of these other social media sites.
Yeah.
I went on there and I was on there for 4 hours a night for a year. And then I stayed on for 10 to 15 years after creating these relationships. So we were tiny, tiny, tiny. That first visit on QVC, it was those women, those relationships in the beginning that I learned what people really wanted. We were chatting about other things other than makeup. Makeup was just part of it. We were creating bonds from the beginning, and they were giving me advice. Women from all over the country. So I learned in the 90s that you're not talking down to people. It's not your marketing to them. Let's build a company together. Mm-hmm. And all the decisions from that point on were in collaboration with these people that I totally respected. So when they said, let's go on a cruise, and I don't like boats and I don't like being on water. I like land. I'm a Virgo. I went on a cruise and we did it again. And then we did bus tours and we did weekend events constantly. Yeah. And letters and gifts. And it was so special that loyalty doesn't have to be a person to a brand. It could be the company, the people inside the company to the people you're serving. And the don't get jaded part. I mean, if you decide to start a company or if you work for a company, you have to realize that if somebody's giving you is a gift, there should be gratitude around that, no matter how big you are. And we never forgot that. And I think that is what people see too on the other end, that they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Yeah, I think that's so incredibly special. And I think a lot of any entrepreneur needs to understand this, I feel like, with any company, because I think that's what differentiates a lot of people. I feel like really feel it's the company, like we're the brand, and then that those are the customers over there, right? Like they're not inside, right. Which I think is so important. So tell me now, you mentioned failure, and obviously no one likes failing publicly or the idea of failure, but I love to tap into these powerful female leaders, their perception of failure, and almost how it's like this muscle that you develop. And so I think you talked a little bit about your comfort zone, but tell me a little bit about differentiating a regret versus a mistake that you talk about in your book.
Yeah, well, and I have like a very current failure in a minute, but
yeah.
So I don't like regrets. I have learned just by saying that word, when I regret something, it weighs on me and makes me feel bad. And it's hard to get out of that hole of regret. So I make mistakes, but I don't let them. I don't carry them with me till the end of my life. So and I've made a lot of them, but they're all learning experiences. And I wonder if I didn't make them, who I would be today. And here's an example of how my mindset works, which would freak out any author, because I've heard it does, would freak out opportunity to celebrate or celebrate, wow, we made a mistake, but let's have fun with this. Yeah. And let's see if we can do a contest for people to find the typo. And then we turn that massive mistake into something where we can have fun with it. So before it was like, it's not a regret, it's a mistake. Let's learn, let's move on. Now it's like, how can we have fun with this massive mistake instead of even waiting to recover from it?
Amazing. So you've released what the typo is, right? It's done, the contest. Yeah. Okay. I was going to ask.
Contest is over. And now the book is a collector's item because we're going to second printing within the next month. So all the books that are out there now are extremely special because we will fix that one up right away.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, Leslie, I could honestly go on and talk to you for so much longer, but before we get to 2 fun questions, I want to leave off with one piece of advice that I absolutely love, and I want you to talk about it. There are many more, but I want people to go and get it and read them for themselves. But tell me about number 16, count your pennies. And of telling yourself you're lucky, that piece of advice resonates so strongly with me, and I feel what you feel when you write this, so tell me about that.
Hey, I'm the luckiest person on the planet since I'm a little kid. Yeah. Everything goes well for me. And you know why? Because I believe I'm the luckiest person on the planet. And even if things look bad to other people, I find the gift in it. So I am telling you, luck is real and it's easy and it's free. So if you believe it, you are it. So I don't believe in bad luck. I only believe in good luck. Yeah. So my dad would tell me from a very young age that I was lucky because I would spot pennies on the ground. And he said, you know what? You're a lucky kid. So then I started winning raffles. I would find $100 bills in the street. I was always like meeting cool people. But the thing is, if bad stuff happened, I broke both of my arms when I was a kid playing football. Yeah. And I was lucky that it wasn't worse. You see how it works. Right. So I like to tell people, with my child too, when he was young, growing up, that he's lucky too. I just think that you just end up making better connections. It's another form of optimism. It's just, you can do this if you believe it.
I love that. I agree 100%. And I think it's because my parents also told me when I was little that I was lucky. So I always had this in my mind, and I think it's so important, and I love it. Okay, we're gonna finish off two things. One, what's a passion or hobby that you have that is completely unrelated to your work?
All right. Well, since we've been sheltering in place, yeah, I've been crocheting a lot. And I crochet anyway, but I've been crocheting a lot. And I've been making these beanies out of crochet. I've made 50 in 2 months. So that is super fun. And now I have like gifts for people for holiday, 50 beanies.
Oh my God.
Also, I took up tap dancing again. I bought super fancy tap shoes like 2 years ago. I don't know how to tap dance, but they're really fancy. So now I'm just dancing around the neighborhood. So that's another thing I'm doing.
Incredible. So this kind of goes on to the next question, which is, tell me a fun, I'm frozen. Oh, okay. Tell me a fun or weird talent that you have that no one else really knows about. And I'm going to go first. Okay.
Oh, good.
So you see that I have grapes. So we're going to do some grape throwing. This is what I do at the end of every episode. Usually it's blueberries, but we're going to do grapes today. All right, here we go. Oh, okay. Sorry, something stopped recording. Okay, here we go. There we go.
Wow. Nice job.
Thank you. Years of practice.
So nice job.
So I feel like you've already crocheting and tapping, but do you have any other fun, weird?
Oh, I have many small talents. I play one song on the harmonica. I can do the hula hoop and play harmonica at the same time.
Wow.
And I started writing raps again, which are terrible, but I call them raps, and I think they're great.
Would you want to share a little taste of your rapping or no?
If I had my harmonica, I'd play it for you, but it's downstairs. Okay. No, I have to read it. I can't memorize it, but maybe I'll put it up on YouTube sometime. Okay. It's bad. It's not good. I'm not proud.
All right. Well, Leslie, I have to say it's so much fun talking to you. Thank you for coming onto the show. I appreciate it. So many lessons. And really, this book is so great. So really, anyone has to go get it. But thank you so much. I loved it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.